And I think that's when I realized, like, there was actually emotions running through me because my
Yeah.
parents just split, and I'm like, obviously I'm not understanding, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh, what's going on, like, how come my parents don't love each other, like, what is
Yeah.
this type
Yeah.
thing. And it was kind of awkward because obviously I was like I said, my mom was never present, so I didn't know how to, like, kind of, I didn't know how to talk to her.
Yeah.
And so I just remember feeling like all these emotions and all this anger, and I was like, everything that I had in me, I could feel. Like, mainly it was anger and, like, sadness. That's when I
Mhm.
realized, I was like, what the heck are these? Like,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
who am I supposed to go to?
Yeah.
Because I would look at my mom, and my mom just goes to work, she cooks and cleans the house, and then she goes to sleep and doesn't really talk to us.
We
And
feel, we
so,
feel sometimes as kids we feel like our parents are unapproachable.
yeah.
It's like
And
there's just wall that we can't communicate with. Yeah.
yeah. Especially because my mom is like, hopefully my mom don't watch this podcast, but my mom is a very, like, she's built, she's a very strong.
Hella buff.
Yeah, she's a very strong lady, so obviously that's another
Yeah.
reason why she wasn't
That's
approachable.
intimidating as a
Yeah, and I
child.
was like, I don't want to talk to my mom, she's gonna beat me up, she's not even gonna let me, like, say anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
um but yeah, she was like, she would just come home, clean, cook, and then go straight to sleep. And then I just remember, like, finding out, like, I tried to find ways to just kind of let my anger out, because I became super aggressive, like,
Yeah.
within that little phase that
Time
I
period.
had. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
became super aggressive. Like, I ended up, like, I used to hit my little sisters, like,
Yeah.
and my little brother. I used to bully them so bad because I was so angry at the fact that I didn't know what was going on, or, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
how I was supposed to feel. And even then I would punch holes in my wall, and, like, my idea was grabbing, like, picture frames and stuff, printing out
Yeah.
pictures and just putting it on the places that the holes were in, so that my mom didn't have to, or my uncle and them didn't have to walk in and see it and be like,
Marcy,
yeah,
punching hard.
they're like, what is this? I'm like, we got rats. Like, I don't know, those holes were there. But
Some big rats.
yeah, seriously. Yeah, I used to, like, I came off very, very aggressive. I was just always
Yeah.
mean. I was just always angry. And I decided to just break things. I decided
Yeah.
to hurt, my poor little siblings. I just decided to hurt anything that came across, like, that I came across, whether it was,
Yeah.
like, friends at school,
Yeah.
people at church. Like,
Yeah.
I did not care. I was angry with life and just how
Yeah.
things ended. And so that's when I had a teacher who, I can't remember her name, although I should, because she actually impacted my life very, very big.
Yeah.
But I remember she could see that she was like, this girl's aggressive. She's got problems. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like she needs some help. And,
Yeah.
when, like, the social workers come, and, they come and they talk to the Polynesian kids, and I'm just kind of like, she came and she's like, is everything okay at home? And,
Yeah.
the pride in me is like, no, like, everything's
Yeah.
fine at home.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
well, why are you asking me? Why are you talking to
Yeah.
me?
Yeah. You're
And
getting mad.
yeah, and then I'm getting mad because she just keeps questioning me. She's like, is everything okay at home? Like, do you need help? And here's me like, no, no, it's okay. Like, I'm all
Yeah.
right. Like, I don't need to talk to you. I don't need to talk to anybody. And then I guess the last question she had asked me was, she was like, do you want to cry? And I was like sitting there for the longest, like, 2 minutes of my life.
Yeah.
I was sitting there and I was like thinking, I was like, cry. What is that?
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? And then I just started crying, and then
Yeah.
she could tell. She was like, okay, she was like, you don't need to tell me anything. Like, you don't need to explain yourself. But she was like, I can tell you're sad. She's like, I can tell you got things bottled up. She's like, you don't need to tell me. But she ended up giving me a notebook,
Hmm.
like a super big notebook. And she just gave me a pen, and she just told me, she's like, I'm not going to read it. You don't have to show me, but just write how you feel. Like, explain, what happens at home, like how your day's been, or what do you think you feel and how you feel about it. And I just started writing. Like after
Mm-hmm.
that, I just started writing. I like
Mm.
even then, like I'd still have stuff built up, but I'd always write it down, and I'd always like, cause my even then, like even now that I'm older, my mom's still kind of like iffy. Like she's
Yeah.
approachable, and I can talk to her about things, but there's
Yeah.
some topics that make my mom super uncomfortable, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
but like I just started writing things down. I started like writing poems. I started writing like short stories, long stories. Like I started just writing everything. And then I think after my seventh grade year, I gave
Mm-hmm.
her my notebook and I was like, you know what? I was like, I thank you so much. Like, because this
Yeah.
is when my family was moving back to Magna. So I was like, thank you. You know what? Read it. And she's like, what? Aren't you moving? And I was like, yeah, but that means you're not going to see me and you don't have to talk to me. Like,
Yeah.
that's how I kind of wanted it to be. And I just
Yeah.
told her, I was like, just read it, and I left, I remember leaving my mom's phone number in case she wanted to like call me. And I just remember her calling my mom's phone, and my mom was like, why did you give your teacher my number? And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, oh geez, I'm gonna get beat up. Like this is
Yeah.
like, oh, I probably should have never gave your number. But I just remember her calling, and then they ended up sending, a social worker to my house to try and explain to my mom, like, hey, your daughter is like, she doesn't seem like she's in the right mind. And
Yeah.
the typical Polynesian parents are like,
Yeah.
my daughter is fine. Like
Yeah.
my daughter tells me a lot of things, and I'm like, mom, that's why you're lying. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
like here comes them, and they're like, no, my kids are fine. Like, don't worry. Like, mind your business type thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're asking help or getting or receiving help is just not in our books. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
I was like, to think I was so close to like getting us something to like help me get close to my mom.
Yeah.
And then, yeah. And then I just remember her, she never called after that.
Yeah.
I was so sad. Like, I could feel the sadness just kind of, I was like, I don't like this feeling. Like, why do I
Yeah.
feel like this? And then we had moved to Magna with my mom's younger sister. And my mom wasn't present then either. But I think I don't blame my parents at all. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't like hold anything against my parents.
Mm-hmm.
But my mom wasn't present during probably like my 8th to my senior year. And
Mm-hmm.
like, I was happy. I was always happy. Like, I didn't have to really deal with like my mom or just the burdens that she had threw on us. Like, I was
Mm-hmm.
always happy after my mom had left. And I feel like my parents played a big part in in my emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I was like, oh, my mom not being here has made things like better. And
Yeah.
like, I'm very grateful for my mom and I love her completely. But like, just during that, that little high school time and middle school time, I didn't feel that sadness. But when my mom would come around, or even my dad, like I always just felt sad around them. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. It's always been like that. Every time they come near me or they talk, like, well, with my mom now, I'm always happy around my mom. But my dad, on the other hand, it's just kind of like, I just feel like that like tongue and strength that he has in him, where
Mm-hmm.
he's just like, he doesn't really want to confront anything that that has happened in the past, or like.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel like my dad feels like it doesn't affect us, because there will be a time where I'll like bring it up to my dad, and my dad's like, he's like,
Yeah.
"Aluki, like aluitoa," and I'm like, I don't want to go outside. I want to like, can we talk? And my dad's like,
Yeah. No. Yeah.
like, go away.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, Dad, thanks. That was a great talk.
Yeah.
It was a great talk, Dad. Yeah, and I think I hit like rock bottom was after high school.
Yeah.
That's when I realized I was depressed. Like,
Yeah.
I was really depressed, like, and I was actually suicidal. Like, it
Yeah.
became so bad, and it had nothing to do with people like around me, or like my family or anything.
Yeah.
And I feel like it didn't have anything to do with any of like my upbringing or anything that I was like, because I didn't have any baggage. I like,
Yeah. Like you didn't hold any feelings towards anybody. You
yeah,
just leave a feeling at that moment.
yeah. And I was like, what is this? Like, why do I feel so like lost and confused? And I was like, oh my gosh. Cause like throughout high school, I was always okay. Like, I grew up in I grew up pretty smooth the older I got.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.